sorry, Claire. We decided you're staying down there until you lose some weight. Maybe then we won't be so embarrassed to be seen with you.
Wait, what? Please, I'm starving. Please let me out.
Nope. Maybe going to bed hungry will speed up your metabolism, though.
Her laughter echoed through the door as she walked away, leaving me in the dark. I was furious, humiliated, and terrified. Did they really plan to leave me here? That night, I drank water from a tap in the basement just to feel full enough to sleep. The next morning, I called out again, hoping they'd come to their senses. Instead, Uncle Mike's voice greeted me through the door.
We're still deciding how long to keep you down there. Maybe a week, maybe 2. We'll see. Depends how quickly you lose weight.
Panic set in. I couldn't survive like this. I had to find a way out, especially since I didn't for sure when they would let me out. I began searching the basement for anything that could help me. Eventually, I found some old boxes and stacked them up to reach a small window near the ceiling. My name is Claire, and I've always known I was different from my sister Jessica. It's not just that we don't get along, we're practically opposites in every way. Jessica is pretty, thin, and effortlessly popular. People are drawn to her like moths to a flame. Me? I'm the nerdy one. I love school. I'm more than a little overweight, and I'd rather spend my Friday nights reading than going to parties. I guess being so different wouldn't be such a problem if Jessica didn't make it her personal mission to remind me of it every chance she got.
God, Claire, could you be any more of a loser? Who cares about your stupid grades? No one's impressed.
Mom and Dad care. Besides, not everyone can coast through life on their looks like you do.
Oh, please. You're just jealous because I don't have to try to get people to like me. People are naturally drawn to me, whereas they see you and are disgusted.
They are not.
Of course they are. You really don't know just how ugly you really are. You're such a freak.
That was Jessica. Every word out of her mouth was meant to cut me down, to make me feel small. And the worst part? It worked. I hated how she treated me, but I didn't know how to fight back. The only saving grace was our parents. They were my rock, kind, loving, and supportive. No matter how awful Jessica was to me, Mom and Dad were always there to remind me that I was special in my own way, and that they truly loved me, and that they knew that I would go far in life. But then, everything changed, and not for the better. It was a rainy afternoon when the police knocked on our door. Mom and Dad had been in a car accident and had been rushed to the hospital with severe injuries. Sadly, they didn't make it, and they passed away while doctors tried to save them. I can't even describe the pain of hearing those words. It felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. Jessica cried, of course. But even in my grief, I could tell there was something hollow about it. She always knew how to put on a show, and this was no different. I really didn't think she was even capable of caring about anyone else other than herself. After the funeral, our aunt and uncle offered to take us in since they were childless. At first, I thought it would be okay, and that it would be a fresh start. They were polite and seemed genuinely kind, but that kindness didn't last long, at least not for me. From the beginning, it was clear they favored Jessica.
Jessica, you're such a beautiful young lady. We're so lucky to have you in our family.
With looks like that, you could be a model one day. Shame that Claire didn't get the same good looks. I guess every family has a black sheep.
I tried to impress them in my own way. I brought home straight A's, showed them awards I'd won, and even helped out around the house more than Jessica ever did. But no matter what I did, it was never enough. In fact, the more I did, the more they looked at me with disgust.
That's nice, Claire. But have you seen Jessica's new dress? Doesn't she look stunning?
School is fine and all, but you really should focus on losing a few pounds. You'd be much prettier if you tried, and people would like you far more. Don't you ever wonder how people must look at us as a family and see you and think poorly of us?
It's true. Your uncle, myself, and Jessica are beautiful people, and when our neighbors see you, they must wonder how someone fat and ugly could be related to us.
Their words hurt so much, and Jessica loved every second of it. She reveled in the attention they gave her and how cruel they were towards me. She made sure to rub it in my face whenever she could.
Face it, Claire. You'll never measure up to me. Just stop trying.
Life isn't about popularity or looks, Jessica. One day you'll be old and your looks will fade, but meanwhile, I'll still be smart and probably with a good job.
As if. I'll just marry some rich man and while you are breaking your back working. I'll be living the life of luxury.
Their favoritism turned into outright cruelty. This became more common because my uncle worked for a magazine, and sometimes, due to Jessica's beauty, he would use her for makeup advertisements, earning thousands of dollars. But because I was fat, I couldn't be used, and they saw me as a burden. While they showered Jessica with new clothes and jewelry, I was left with hand-me-downs and snide remarks. It was as if I didn't exist, just an afterthought, a burden they were forced to tolerate. Then came the night that everything fell apart. One evening, Uncle Mike came home from work with big news.
I've got an important client coming over for dinner tonight. He's actually the publisher of the best magazine in this state. This could be huge for my career, so I need everything to be perfect.
He turned to Jessica and smiled.
Jessica, make sure you wear something nice. We want to impress him, and seeing your beautiful face will definitely do just that.
Then his gaze shifted to me and his smile vanished and turned into a nasty sneer.
As for you, Claire, you're staying in the basement. I don't want you embarrassing us. I don't want my client to see your ugly face and think poorly of me because of it.
What? But
Don't argue with me. Just do as you're told.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I wanted to scream, to fight back, but the look on his face told me it wouldn't matter. Defeated, I grabbed a couple of books and went down to the basement. Hours passed as I sat there, my stomach growling. I hadn't been allowed to eat dinner, and the hunger was unbearable. When I finally heard the front door close and realized the client had left, I made my way to the basement door, only to find it locked. I pounded on the door, calling for help. Hello? Somehow, the door got locked. Can someone please let me out?
Sorry, Claire. We decided you're staying down there until you lose some weight. Maybe then we won't be so embarrassed to be seen with you.
Wait, what? Please, I'm starving. Please let me out.
Nope. Maybe going to bed hungry will speed up your metabolism, though.
Her laughter echoed through the door as she walked away, leaving me in the dark. I was furious, humiliated, and terrified. Did they really plan to leave me here? That night, I drank water from a tap in the basement just to feel full enough to sleep. The next morning, I called out again, hoping they'd come to their senses. Instead, Uncle Mike's voice greeted me through the door.
We're still deciding how long to keep you down there. Maybe a week, maybe 2. We'll see. Depends how quickly you lose weight.
Panic set in. I couldn't survive like this. I had to find a way out, especially since I didn't for sure when they would let me out. I began searching the basement for anything that could help me. Eventually, I found some old boxes and stacked them up to reach a small window near the ceiling. It was too small for me to fit through, but it gave me an idea. I wrote a note explaining everything, how I'd been locked in the basement, starved, and tormented by my family. Then I searched for something to make my story more believable. That's when I found an old tape recorder. I set it up near the door and recorded myself calling out for help. Sure enough, Jessica, Aunt Susan, and Uncle Mike all came to mock me.
Keep crying, Claire. Maybe it'll help you burn some calories.
You'll thank us later. This is for your own good.
Stop whining. You'll get out when we say you can. For now, we'll keep you locked down there. Of course, if you happen to die, though, we'll just celebrate.
Yeah, I mean, we'll save so much money by not having to buy food for your fat ass.
Their voices were clear on the recording. I wrapped the cassette tape in my note and waited until the next morning. When I heard the neighbor heading to work, I pushed the window open and threw the bundle into their yard in front of them. I watched as they picked it up, read the note, and looked up at me in shock. Nervously, they tiptoed towards the house and spoke to me through the open window.
Is this true?
Yes. Please, help me, if you need proof. Please listen to the recording. They promised to call the police and ran off with the tape. Hours later, I heard sirens and the sound of officers pounding on the front door. There was shouting, arguing, and then gunfire. Moments later, the basement door burst open, and police officers rushed down to get me. They brought me to the neighbor's house, where I finally got to eat a proper meal while giving my statement. The officers explained what had happened.
When we arrived, your family claimed you weren't here. They said you'd run away. When we demanded to see the basement, your uncle threatened us with a gun. When we forcefully tried to get in, your uncle started shooting. One of our officers was forced to fire, and he was shot.
I later learned that Uncle Mike didn't survive his injuries and he died on the way to the hospital. Aunt Susan and Jessica were arrested and charged with wrongful imprisonment, child abuse, kidnapping, and attempted murder. Jessica, despite being a minor, was tried as an adult because of the seriousness of the crimes and her role in them. Weeks passed, and they were both sentenced to 20 years in prison each. With Aunt Susan gone, I was given ownership of their house, but as a minor, I couldn't live alone. The neighbor who had saved me, Rebecca, offered to adopt me. I'll never forget the day the court approved it. I was skeptical that it would be an improvement, but was so very relieved to find out that it was the best thing to ever happen to me.
You're safe now, Claire. I'll take care of you. I promise that I will protect and keep you safe.
For the first time in years, I felt truly loved. Rebecca treated me like her own daughter, and life with her was everything I'd ever dreamed of. I had no intention of ever living in my aunt and uncle's home, and so I sold it and used the money to pay for college, and with the money left over, I invested it. Years later, I used that money that had grown while I was in school, and I bought my own home and started a life I was proud of. As for my aunt and Jessica, I heard rumors that my uncle's ghost keeps tormenting them. Inmates despise them after learning how horrible they were, often bullying them, seizing their food, or occasionally beating them. The worst happened when Jessica tried to seduce a guard. It backfired and was locked up in solitary confinement, and her sentence was extended by 3 months. As for Jessica and Aunt Susan, I made a point to often write them letters, just to let them know how happy and successful I'd become without them. And sometimes I will include photos of my vacation trips. Maybe it was spiteful, but it always makes me smile rubbing their noses in the fact that they are stuck in prison while I get to live my best life. Thanks for watching.